So earlier on, I spoke to Eskom's Demand Management Senior General Manager, Andrew Etzinger. I began by asking him about being at a critical point and Eskom planning for Stage 5 and Stage 6 load shedding and what that would practically mean.
Let me firstly point out that we are not intending to go to Stage 5 or Stage 6 load shedding. I think it was a question this afternoon about what comes after Stage 4, and you know, the logical answer would be Stage 5 or 6, but it's not severe enough, and glad to say that the outlook is to actually improve from here, from tomorrow then into Thursday and Friday.
But practically, what does it mean? Does it mean additional shedding of 5,000 megawatts or 6,000 megawatts respectively, or the total amount to be load shed in a 24-hour cycle? Practically, how is it going to look like if we move to Stage 5 and 6?
If we were to implement Stage 5, then as we have escalated over the weekend from Stage 2 to Stage 4, it would just be a level higher of load shedding. And as you point out, it would indicate that the gap between the available generation capacity and the demand for electricity has grown to about 5,000 megawatts for Stage 5, or if it were to grow to 6,000 megawatts, that would require Stage 6 load shedding to bring supply and demand into balance. So again, you know, that's in theory how it works and how all the stages are worked out from Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It depends on the gap, the imbalance between supply and demand. But at this stage, the imbalance is 4,000 megawatts, which required Stage 4 load shedding.
So could one possibly be load shed several times in a day? And I know it says it depends on where you live. What are the determining factors here? It
is a possibility, depending on how your municipality, if you're supplied by a municipality, has constructed the load shedding schedule. Certain municipalities have opted in the design of their schedule to have one long period of load shedding. I stay in Joburg, and it's I think up to 6 hours. I was off the other day. Whereas other municipalities have opted to have fewer, more frequent interruptions, but for less duration. So 2 hours, perhaps under a higher, let's say Stage 5 or 6, it may require Stage 2 hours in the morning and then 2 hours in the evening again, as an example. So really it would depend on your specific supplier, your municipality, as to which route they would follow. But certainly Stage 5 would mean that you would be off, as far as electricity is concerned, off the grid for longer than, for example, Stage 4. And Stage 4 is more severe than Stage 3. So the higher the stage, the more interruption you would experience over a 24-hour
Now,
period.
I know you said you haven't reached that point yet, but Eskom's website does also contain load shedding schedules of up to Stage 8. Is this at all ever in the offing?
We need to be responsible and prepare for the worst, and that's why we've made those schedules and prepared those schedules and done all the work to make sure that they are there and available if needed. But of course, we would never want to go there. But having said that, we are at Stage 4. We need to acknowledge that there are problems that of course we're attending to, but it is simply posted as a
cautionary note.
As a cautionary in the event of further escalation. But certainly at this stage.
So let's talk about Johannesburg Water warning that there could be a knock-on effect on their ability to pump water. Would this be a national problem, and are you already in discussion with some of the municipal entities that pump out water?
We'll definitely take this up with the Department of Water Affairs. In terms of the regulations governing load shedding, bulk water supplies are exempt from load shedding. So it's a puzzling question as to why that situation should arise, and whether a particular municipality hasn't exempted their water pumps from their load shedding schedule. So we'll follow up, but certainly water supplies should not be impacted by load shedding.
So two things I want to ask about. You're saying your dispute with NERSA on their calculation of the regulatory clearing account. Where is that? And are you already in discussions with the National Treasury and the Auditor General because you want to redesign the opt-out emergency power process?
On both questions, unfortunately, I'm not qualified to answer. I'm sorry. I'm looking after our power stations at the moment. In terms of the regulatory process, we've just heard the outcome of the multi-year price determination application that we've got, and we are redoing our financial calculations to see the impact of that. As to the action forward, I'm sure that will emerge in due course. And similarly, our interactions with National Treasury and the Auditor General would be around procurement processes to see how we would speed those up, and those would be the domain of our commercial manager. So I'm not familiar with the exact details on those.
So just in terms of your supply, South Africa has already bought all of the available diesel on the high seas to run the emergency power. What else would you have on your survival kit, especially if there is the planned strike in April that takes place? What would be available for you to clutch on to prevent further power crisis?
Diesel availability is a vital component, and the plants, two big plants which use diesel, have a substantial capacity, which would, just to put the round numbers, when those become available, we could reduce from stage 3 load shedding to zero load shedding. That's literally the size of these power stations, which we're hoping to power up once the diesel arrives from the high seas, as you put it. In terms of strike action, that's a different consideration. That is a business continuity and security domain. And from a power station perspective, we do have contingencies in place to ensure that if we do have walkouts from power stations, as we saw last year, that as far as possible we keep the power stations up and running with skeleton staff, which we managed to do in most instances last year. There were exceptions, which did mean that we did have a small amount of load shedding during June of last year. But overall, the contingencies stood firm, and we're hoping that they will this time. But of course, we hope that we avoid a strike in its entirety.
The Management Senior Manager at Eskom, Andrew Etzinger, and let's take you back to